So I had a request to do a movie review of this movie. Mixed feelings about it. So yeah, let's get on with it, shall we? And keep in mind, um, the movie reviews are not coming back in this channel. Okay, this is the only one I'm doing. Okay, so let's do it. Hello everyone, welcome to my movie review of The Forest. I don't remember ever seeing this movie, okay? It was kind of the first time I watched it. It's almost an hour and something minute movie. I watched it last night around 10 o'clock and I think I got done in. I think I got it was I was done watching it around 12 o'clock at night, okay? I have mixed feelings about this one. Um, and I don't think y'all's gonna like this. Uh, by the way, spoiler alert, if you have not seen this movie yet and you would like to see it before you see this review, click off here now and you won't have to worry about seeing any spoilers or hearing any spoilers. Okay, so if you're still watching this video, that means you don't care, and that if you get spoiled or anything, you would like to know what I really think about this movie, and you're more welcome here, okay? First of all, on this movie, this girl, it says at the beginning it says the forest, and it says it shows a woman in the forest running like somebody's chasing after her, and it doesn't explain where she's at or anything. She's just running, and it looks like she's in the forest running, like something's chasing after her. And then next thing you know, her sister, one blonde-headed woman wakes up like she had a nightmare that somebody was that she was in a forest and somebody was chasing after her, and found out she had a sister, a black-headed girl, and apparently this movie is trying to kind of be like Dragon Ball Z. She can sense. The two sisters can sense each other's presence, and they can tell if they're still alive or they're dead, And so it don't explain about what happens or anything. That she packs her stuff up, and she goes off and she goes off and let her boyfriend know, or husband, whoever he is to her, know that her sister is in trouble, and that she's gonna have to bail her out again. So apparently this isn't the first time that her sister got herself in trouble. Apparently her sister was suicidal, back not once but twice in the past, and so he goes off and he talks to her, and he says, "Well, I gotta go and see about my sister needs help, and I gotta go out there and help her, And so he gives her and she gives him a kiss, and tells him goodbye, that she's traveling. She packed her clothes, her stuff up, and she's leaving to Japan. And the thing is, find out that she her sister went to a place called I hate as much as I hate to say it, but in real life that's what it's called, the Suicide Forest. And on this movie, it's what this that's what it is. They show all kinds of stuff that's in there, you know. And she goes around talking to these people, you know, and this and that, you know. And they said this woman tells her, warns her, and tells her, she's like, I know what you're talking about. You don't want to go there because once you get in, because you can't go into that place. And she said, well, why not? She said, well, um, you have sadness in you. And she says that if you go there, that forest will use that sadness against you, and it will kill you. And I'm like, she's like, well, my sister's in there, and I have to go, you know. So this guy comes out of nowhere and talks to her and tells her that he moved in somewhere in Japanese place, in Japan, or whatever they call it, place, somewhere in there, you know, in that country, you know. And they start talking, and she starts talking to him, you know, this and that, you know. And eventually, she wanted to get drunk, you know, don't know what the hell she's talking, don't know what's going on, you know. And they sitting there talking, you know, about her sister and about why she wanted to do this and that, you know. And he said that, well, I got a guy that's going that I know that's been in the Suicide Forest before, and he's taking me there tomorrow on the tomorrow, you know. And he's like, we can take you there with us if you want to go, if you want to go, but keep in mind, I don't think you should go. And she said, why not? Why? She said, he said, because you have sadness in you, and it could use it against you and kill you. And she said, well, that's what that girl said too, but I don't care. I'm going. And she said, and she talked to that guy, that looks like a little Chinese guy, and he said the same thing. He said, no, you're not going, because you have sadness in you. I can sense you have sadness in you, and it will use it against you and it kill you. And she said, I don't care. I don't care what anybody says. I don't care what you say. I'm going. So, therefore, all of a sudden, he got her drunk, you know, and then he had a recording on there. He's asking her permission to record everything she was saying. So she did. He recorded everything that she was talking about, you know. And they went to that forest, okay? They went to that forest and to look around, you know, and she can see, she's seen signs on that's hanging around that looks like a wired fence thing, you know, saying stay out, or stay out, no trespassing, this, that, you know, all kinds of warnings, you know. And he said, and she's just sitting here daydream, like she's daydreaming, you know. And he's like, hey, you coming? And all of a sudden she's like, yeah. And all of a sudden she starts walking towards him. They look at the compass, and the compass is going like this here, I mean, twirling around, you know. And she's like, well, that's weird. She said, I've never seen anything like that before. Is that supposed to do that? And he said, yeah. He said, that's what it does. You can't. That's why we say here in the Suicide Forest, you can't have you had to watch where you're going, and you had to do like a string attached to each tree to show you where you're going, where you're at, and where you came from, because the compass, you can't use the compass in there because once you go so far inside there, you get lost, and then you can't figure out where to go and everything. It makes you go crazy, and especially at nighttime. If you spend a night there at nighttime, which they do, they're walking around it's like he's giving her a tour of what the forest looks like and everything, And she tells him, well, since we're going in different directions, let's go over here, and then they find a tent. They find a tent that looks like somebody was camping there, and he said he talks to them, and they said they're okay, but for now, but I don't know for how long, And then they're walking around trying to find her sister and everything. He was sitting there telling her that he has a brother, and he would do the same thing if he was in her shoes. So they walk around, and they finally found a tent, an empty tent, and she sees that tent, and she realizes it belongs to her. It belongs to her sister. So she goes up and looks in their tent and finds out she's not in her tent, and but all her belongings and everything is in her tent. So the guy sits there and says, it's starting to get a little dark, so he said, we need to get out of here. We need to leave. And she said, no. Yeah, you're right. You're right. You should go. I'll stay here, just in case she comes back. He said, I'm not leaving you here. It's too dangerous. It's too dangerous here in the forest. She said, I'm not going. I'm not leaving. And then that guy said, well, I'll tell you what. You go ahead. You go ahead. You go ahead and go, and I'll stay here with her. And he said, okay. Okay, no problem. But you two stay here. I'll be back in the morning to check on y'all, and we can go look for her. He's okay, no problem. So they did, and she was sleeping in the tent, and next thing you know, he passed out and he was asleep, making sure that she wouldn't go anywhere. And she woke up middle of the. She was sleeping, and she was dreaming that somebody was actually hitting the tent. And she looked. She opened the door to see what was going on, and see if anybody was out there. And all of a sudden, she sees three old women ghosts. And it was like going like this to her, And all of a sudden, she wakes up, and she wakes up, and then she sees that everything's okay, and then all of a sudden she sees somebody, and she sees somebody walking, and it's middle of the night, he's still in bed, he's still asleep, and the campfire is still going. So all of a sudden she sees a girl, she sees a girl walking, but it looks like her sister. So she goes after her and tries to find her, and then all of a sudden she finds her. But thing is, to find out later on, this Chinese girl, is actually a ghost, and she talks to her, and she tells her, and she says, I know your sister. She's still in here. She needs you, and she asks for your help. She wants your help, and everything else, And then all of a sudden she runs off, and then next thing you know, she can't find her, and then so she goes back to her tent, and she goes back to bed and sleep, and then next morning she wakes up, and they both sit there and say, well. He said, I tell you what. He said, we're gonna sit here and do this. You're gonna write her a note, letting her know you was here, like you should have done yesterday. So after he said that, they go off and look around in the forest, trying to figure out where she is, try to find her and everything. And then all of a sudden, his phone plays, and you can actually hear her talking like when she was the way she was when she was drunk, and she says, "What the hell is that?" And all of a sudden he's like, "Oh, it's my phone." And she's like, "Did you record me?" And he said, "Yeah, you gave me permission." She said, "No, I didn't. I didn't give you permission to say and to record me of anything I said last night." And she said, "Give me your phone." He said, "No. Give me your goddamn phone." And he said, "Okay." He's okay. And all of a sudden he's like, "What are you doing?" "Give me the phone." And she's like, "I'm unlocking the fucking thing." So he unlocks the phone and he hands it to her. Okay? The force is taking over. Okay? The force is starting to take over, control both of them. Okay? And then all of a sudden, she looks at her phone, trying to figure out how to erase that video. Okay? And the next thing you know, the force catches on to her, and it makes her see a picture of her sister. And it looks like that he took a pic, and he actually took her sister to the suicide forest, and it was in the tent. It was in her tent, and he took a picture of her, and so that's not, and then all of a sudden he talked to her like he was going to kill her, like he was like he did something to her, and therefore he gets onto her, tells her to give her the goddamn phone. She throws her phone at him, and then she hauls ass and tries to run, and he hollers at her trying to figure out where she's at because he's trying to help her out, And then next thing you know, she falls, and she's running, and there's like, looks like a guy with a mask on, looks like a bag over his head, okay, and it looks like he has like some kind of black marker on his face, It looks like the one of the Friday the 13th movie, Jason movies, and everywhere she ran, and she kept hearing her sister's voice saying, "Turn around, turn around, turn around," and she says, "No, I'm not going to." And all of a sudden she's like, it's just a forest playing with my head." She kept repeating the same thing over. There's nothing there, there's nothing there. It's just all in my head. And then all of a sudden, she sees it, and all of a sudden, as soon as she sees it, she ran, she hauls ass, running, trying to get away from that guy, because she thinks it was him. Next thing you know, there's a trap, there's a hole, a big hole in the floor, in the ground, that's covered in leaves and crap. She falls in, and hurts her ankle, and then all of a sudden, she turns her flashlight on her phone on, and then she looks around, and she sees a Chinese girl, and looks like the Chinese girl is trying to help her out. And when she finds her, and the Chinese girl tells her sister's down here, and so she goes off and she's like, "Come, come!" And all of a sudden, finally, she runs off. She runs towards her, and then all of a sudden, she's like this here, and then all of a sudden she looks and she aims at the camera right up to her face and show her to see her, and then she's like, just goes at her. I mean, her face is terrible and everything. She goes after her, and she finds out the Chinese girl is actually dead. It's a ghost, and she runs. I mean, she runs haul ass to where she came from, And then she starts hollering at the hole, hollering, and he hears her, and he says he's gonna go and get some rope to get her out of there. And she said, "Don't leave me." He gets a rope, gets her out of there, and then he sits there and says, "Here, I got my bag with me." He pulls out a knife, and she says, "What is that?" And she said, "Here, I want you to have this. It's a knife. I want you to have it. And that way you can try. I want you to trust me more. Take the goddamn knife. So he went up and she went up and took the knife, you know, so she could trust him more, you know. They look around, you know, and all that kind of stuff, you know. Trying to find his, and still trying to find her sister, okay. They won, and and when they, and by the way, when the guy was still there, you know, before her and him decided to camp out, they're looking around, and they found I don't know if it's a man or a woman or whoever it was, but they find a dead body hanging from the tree. And the dead body has a bag over the person's head, and they're taking a knife to cut it down, and they're getting a hold of the authorities so that way they can come over there and pick up the body and take it out of there, you know. And so that was at the beginning, before all this mess happened, okay. So all of a sudden, she has the knife with her, okay? The forest is playing tricks and playing mind games on her, okay? She sees, looks like worms or something coming inside of her skin, walking around in here. So she tries to, and she's fixing to take a knife and try to get the worms out, you know? But then all of a sudden, she hears him hollering. She hears him hollering at her for a second, you know. Then when she looks at her arm, it's back to it's normal. There's nothing there. So she realized that the forest was trying to kill her. It was trying to make her do something she's gonna regret. Okay. So they're walking around, and they find, looks like a cabin. Okay, they find a cabin, and they're going and they find, and they're looking around in the cabin, and they find a radio. Okay, the radio's all busted, and it's not. I mean, it's not busted, but it's not working. So he asked her for a knife, and she said why, and she didn't know why he was wanting a knife for. And he said, "Give me the goddamn knife, so I can open this up, unless you want me to bust it through, on the table and then do it that way." So she gives him the knife. He's working on it. Next thing you know, she sees a door to a basement. Okay. She goes to the door, and she finds out the door is locked. And then she says, she asked him about the door, and he said, she said, "Is there a key to the basement?" She said, "Well, how do you know it's a basement? It could be a closet." And she says, and then all of a sudden she didn't say nothing else, you know. So she looked around, you know, and found out. She was sitting here, and she was hearing something. So she asked, and it was like a whisper through the door. So she was whispering back to that person, and it sounded like that it was her sister talking to her. And so she sat there and said, "Is he? And is he there?" And then all of a sudden, she looked at the bottom of the floor of the door, and there's a slip of paper coming towards her, and she looked, and she picks it up, and it asked her. And asked her if he is. She said his name. Is he there? And she said, and she wrote on it saying yes. She put slipped it underneath the door again to let her know. And then the paper came back to her, and she said, "Don't tell him we're here, and don't tell him I'm here. He will kill us." And then she said something about get the key from him. So then she said, "Where's the key?" And then she finds a knife, and found out there's a knife in the cabin. So she grabs a knife, and she says, Do you have the key to do you have the key to the door?" And he said, "This, that." And all of a sudden, she's like, she puts a knife to his throat, and she said, "Give me the key." She said, he said, "Don't do this, please." And then he tried to talk to her. He's like, "Give me the goddamn key. Let my sister out of the basement now." And he's like, "Your sister's not in there. She's dead. Your sister's dead." And he's like, and then she's like, "Give me the gun." And he's like, "Okay, I'll give you the key. I'll give you the key." And she said, "Where's the key at?" "It's in my boot." And she's like, get it. And then all of a sudden when she does, and she lets her guard down, he grabs a hold of her. And I think he either pushes her back or something. I don't know what happens, but they both fall to the ground. He's landing on top of her like he's making out with her. And when he falls on top of her, she stabs him and it wasn't on purpose. It was actually on the accident. And she stabs him in the heart. And all of a sudden she didn't know what she done until all of a sudden she finds out, and that he died right there. He died right on the spot right there, you know. And then he's letting her know that what's going on, you know, and that she told him that he wasn't going to get no story from her at the beginning when he said that, you know. So then all of a sudden after he died, she's going to get the key. But the thing is, as soon as he died, the door unlocked and kind of opened up a little. So I'm like, wait a minute here. Something's not adding up here. The Force is playing with him. But now she kills him, gets him killed. He's dead. And now the door automatically opens up. What the hell is this? So all of a sudden, she opens the door. Okay? Now, here in the past, they reveal what happens. Okay? She talks to him about the past. Okay? Telling him that when her and her sister was little, a drunk driver came to their house, into their basement, and they was with their their grandma in the front room watching TV, and they heard 2 gunshots. And then they walked in the basement, and she regretted it because she wishes now she shared it with her sister instead of closing her eyes and not looking what happened, you know. All she sees is that there's a shotgun sitting on the floor next to her mom. Her mom is laying on the floor dead, and that's all she sees. Her sister sees the whole thing, and the guy asked her what happened. Did the cops see and find the drunk driver? And she said, well, they went searching for him, but they could never find him. Turns out she made this whole thing up. Okay, he was recording this whole thing, by the way, on his phone. That's what she was complaining about. And she found out that when she looked in the when she went down the basement and found out, she saw the whole in the way the Force showed her the whole thing, revealed the whole thing, that apparently her dad went up and took the shotgun and shot and killed her mother and killed her mom. Then took the shotgun and killed himself. And she didn't know it, and then she told her sister and said, "No, don't look." She covered her sister's eyes. Then she looked and see what happened, just to find out and reveal that what her dad really did. That her dad killed her dad, killed her mom, and then killed himself. She couldn't believe it. Then that's when her dad's ghost came back, grabbed her on the wrist. Okay, grabbed her by the wrist. She took the knife that she had and that she found in the cabin, and she tried to break herself free from that thing, from her dad. Okay, but when she did, she winds up killing herself. Okay, she winds up killing herself, and she didn't know it was an accident. The forest actually made her kill herself, and so she after she got free and got herself free, she ran out of there and started running out of there, and she started hollering for her sister. She started hollering for her sister, and her sister felt it. Okay, her sister felt the hand grabbing her wrist and grabbing the wrist. Okay, so she's like this, you know, and then she's like, all of a sudden she's at her own camp. Okay, and it's nighttime. Okay, so then all of a sudden she goes off and doesn't hear, and then all of a sudden she gets up and she runs. Okay, she runs and she hears her sister, so she's trying to find her. But when she does, she also sees some light. Okay, she sees some light. She's running towards the light, and while she's running towards the light, she's running towards her sister, trying to get out of there, and trying to get to her sister. When all of a sudden, she gets out of the forest. Okay, the black-headed girl gets out of the forest, who's been trapped in the forest for like 2 or 3 days, and she finally gets out of the forest, and she sees her sister's boyfriend or her husband, and she says, "Get away from me! Get away from me! Don't touch me!" She says, "Are you real? Are you actually real, or are you fake?" And he says, "No, I'm real. I'm real. I'm real." And then all of a sudden he says, she gives him a hug. She says, "Oh, thank God." She said, "Thank God. I'm finally out of the forest." She's like, "Where's my sister?" And she's like, and he's like, "Your sister's in the forest. She went after you. She went looking for you." She's like, "I gotta go find her. I gotta go back in there and find her." She's like, they grab a hold of her and they said, "No, you can't go back in there. You're not going back in there." Next thing you know, she has that look on her face and stops out of nowhere, and has that look on her face like, "Oh no." She realized she senses that her sister's dead. That she can't no longer sense her sister. So she realized her sister is dead now. And then all of a sudden her sister's walking, running toward, still running, trying to find her sister. Okay. Next thing you know, the Chinese girl that she saw before stops in front of her. Stops in front of her and looks right at her. Doesn't say anything. Just looks right at her. Next thing you know, she's looking at her, and she's looking at her arm, and she finds out, she finds out she died. And she finds out that she's letting her know she can't leave the forest anymore because she went up and killed herself by accident, you know. And therefore, all of a sudden, they have arms and grabbing her by her legs, you know, pulling her down, pulling her in the ground, you know, and she's trying to fight her way out of it, you know, and and everything, you know, and just pulling her out like kind of like Jason when they're trying to when their arms are pulling him in the ground, you know, trying to throw him and pull, send him to hell and everything. That's exactly what they were doing with her, you know, pulling her under the ground until she went under the ground, and that was it, you know. And then all of a sudden, the guy that took her and him into the forest, they all they got her in the car, getting her out of there, you know. The black-headed girl, that is, you know. And all of a sudden, he thought, and she said there first. She goes on and sits there and says, "It's quiet. The forest is quiet." And she realized, because she knows that her sister's dead now, so then therefore they got her in the car, you know. And all of a sudden he starts walking towards the cars, you know. And he stops. He knows something's not right, so he turns around and he looks right at the forest. He sees a ghost looking right at him. Next thing you know, like that, you see her and her sister's ghost coming right at him, coming out of the forest, and looks like she's coming right at him. That's it. That's how it ends. So, my opinion on this movie is a good movie. No. To be honest with you, and the movie is okay. Okay, it kept me entertained. I actually was entertained, and it did not make me fall asleep or anything like that. It actually kept me entertained. But it was not a good movie at all. I would not recommend anybody buying this movie at all. If anything, I would recommend you renting. Okay? I would recommend you renting this movie. This movie is not a buy at all. Do not buy this movie at all. It is good, but the ending of this movie sucked ass. I mean, it was horrible. The way it ended, it should have ended way better than that, you know. I was hoping that her and her sister, I was hoping that the guy would got killed, which he did, and I was hoping that her and her sister got out of there alive, you know. And it never happened, and therefore, the way that movie ended, it sucked. I don't know if they're going to be making a movie called The Forest Part 2, second movie of that movie. If they do, I would probably rent it to see how it ends and probably do a review of that in there as well. But yeah, after the movie was over with, it asked me, do I want to rate it? Trust me, you don't want to know what I give it. I give this movie 1 star, 2 thumbs down, and a good solid 1 out of 10. Don't buy this movie. Only rent it. Unless you want to waste your money on this movie, do not buy it. It's only a rent. Do not buy it. Thanks for watching this movie review.